I told my mom her boyfriend kept trying to molest me and she won't believe me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. Once I was born, my father abandoned my mom and I. So my mom raised me on her own with the help of my grandma. My grandma decided to retire in a different state, so we didn't have her help anymore. This is when my mom started dating a new guy. He was really great. He was definitely a father figure. He took care of me and my mom, and he even had his own son, so we were about the same age. We were like the Brady Bunch. It was the happiest time in my life that I can remember. But soon my stepdad found out that my mother was cheating on him with a neighbor. He would go off to work and my brother and I would go to school. So my mom would have the neighbor come over and they would do whatever they would do. Another one of our neighbors decided to tell my stepdad the truth and he caught them. Quickly divorced my mom and abandoned me too. Because of this, my mom and I definitely have abandonment issues. But it was all my mother's fault from the beginning. She eventually met someone new when I was 16 years old. This man was not like my stepdad. He drank a lot and always invited his friends over. There were always strange grown men in my house. And my mom would constantly tell me to put on clothes before they saw me. But my mom just encouraged them to drink alcohol. Part 2 is up. I told my mom her boyfriend tried to molest me and she won't believe me. Disclaimers is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. At this point I was 16 and I was growing into my body. I was a teenager going through puberty. My mom's boyfriend would always invite his guy friends over. And anytime I came out of my room, they would make comments about my body and how quickly I was growing. Then my mom would tell me, you need to cover up before they see you. Instead of my mom protecting me and telling these men not to talk to me like that, she was telling me to cover up. So I did. Around my stepdad and his friends, I started wearing really big t-shirts. This led me to become ashamed of the curves that I was growing into. I would even layer sports bras just to flatten my chest. That's around the time my mom's boyfriend started acting strange. Anytime I was in the bathroom, he would always make up excuses as to why he had to come in. And this man would pee in front of me. Even if I was brushing my teeth or taking a shower, he would always try to come in. I obviously started locking my door and I told my mom that I didn't want him to come in when I was in the bathroom. And she would say things like, this is his house. But he didn't pay rent. My mom was the one paying the rent. Oh yeah, and anytime I had my period, he always wanted to know certain details, like how much I bled. But it gets worse. Part 3 is up. I told my mom her boyfriend tried to molest me and she won't believe me. Disclaimer, is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. Whenever he would start asking me questions about my period, I would automatically shut off. This is around the time where I got my first boyfriend. This is when I made the mistake of telling my mom the truth. She wanted me to invite my new boyfriend over and all she did was strut around in a tube top and shorts. And she kept saying things to him like, wow, you look so big for your age. She completely embarrassed me and my boyfriend actually felt so uncomfortable he went home. After that, my stepdad kept paying more and more attention to me. Anytime I was in my bedroom, he would always look for excuses to come in. He would knock on my door and he'd pretend like he wouldn't hear me say don't come in. And he would come in anyway whenever I was changing. Didn't have a lock on my door, so my boyfriend helped me install it. And when my mom's boyfriend found out, he threatened to beat up my boyfriend. One night he came into my bedroom and tried to touch me. I yelled at the top of my lungs and my mom came in. This woman pretended like nothing had happened. The next day she told me that I was just dreaming. Then she told me that I was just trying to provoke him. I actually ended up moving in with my boyfriend and we got married. Bye, toxic mom.
Story time! Okay, so this story happened when I was walking home from school one day and a terrier dog ran up to me. Now, I've always loved dogs, but my parents were against me having one because I have a cat named Bella. So the dog had a leash and a collar, and the address on the collar was literally right down the street from my house. But let me tell you guys, this dog did not look like it was taken care of. The dog was really skinny and he was whimpering a lot, but he was still super friendly. So I took the dog to my house and I took him into my backyard because my parents wouldn't be home for a few hours. And I didn't have any dog food, so I just gave him leftover hamburgers from my fridge. And let me tell you guys, it ate the hamburgers so quick. After that, I ended up naming the dog Bailey. So then at this point, I was scared that either his owners weren't feeding him or he had run away from home and he just hadn't ate in a while. So after I gave Bailey water and food, I ended up walking him back to the house. The smell of people smoking, you know what, was so strong that I could literally smell it outside of the house. So I walked up to the house and I knocked on the door and I heard yelling coming from inside. A few seconds after I knocked, a man came to the door. And when he opened the door, Bailey started whimpering again. Now, I couldn't tell if the whimpering was because of fear or if it was because of excitement. Instead of the man being like, oh my god, you found my dog, he just grabbed the leash from me and took Bailey inside and shut the door without saying anything at all. Not even a thank you. After he shut the door, I stood there for a few seconds trying to comprehend the audacity de este puto. After that, there was really nothing I could do, so I just ended up going back home. Fast forward to the next day, and I was on my way to school. I was walking actually. And as I was walking, guess who I ran into? Bailey! Bailey was outside again. I gave him some snacks that I had and some water, and then I ended up taking his leash and his collar off to make him look like a stray because my parents were home. When I got home, they asked me about the dog, and then I was like, oh, this is just some random dog that followed me home after school. And after I said that, they felt bad. Not gonna lie, I kind of guilt tripped them too, but they agreed to let Bailey stay with us for a bit until they figured out some stuff. We kept Bailey, and to this day I still have him, and my neighbor never came looking for him.
I cheated on my wife last night. I don't know what to do. Obviously I need to tell her, but I still haven't been able to get my head around it. One of my coworkers were leaving, so we all went out for drinks and then to a club. My wife's not a drinking or clubbing type, so she stayed home but was fine with me going. I was drunk. I know I was drunk. My head is still pounding. I remember being at the bar, then at the club, then waking up with the woman I didn't know on top of me in a house I didn't know. She said something like, "Oh, I thought you were asleep," and got off of me. I got my clothes and quickly got out of there. I walked for however long until I got a taxi and I got home at like 6 a.m. My wife works early shifts, so she started work at 5 a.m. and I haven't seen her. I don't know who the woman was. I haven't spoken to my coworkers. I don't even remember getting there. I don't remember leaving the club with her. I love my wife. I don't know what I was thinking. Even drunk, I don't know how I could have even had it in my subconscious to cheat on her. I don't even think I was that drunk. Like I'd only had 3 or 4 beers before going to the club and I usually have a pretty high tolerance. I cheated on my wife and I don't even remember. I don't know what to do now. I haven't gotten out of bed since getting home except to throw up, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to look my wife in the eye when she gets home in a couple of hours. I feel so sick.
This is part 1 of me finding my fiance naked with his married coworker on my wedding day. So we started dating in 2014 and we were supposed to get married September 30th, 2017. In the days leading up to the wedding, it was 5 days before, like something just not right with this one girl that he worked with. And I asked him about it and he's like, "You're crazy, there's nothing going on, yada yada." 5 days before the wedding, he's like, "You don't trust me enough to get married. We need to postpone. Like my whole life is falling apart." Or that's how I felt at that time. We had met with our marriage counselors. And they were like, "Kirsten, there's nothing going on. Like, he says there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on." We call off the wedding. I'm like very anxiety ridden because I'm like, okay, either he's cheating on me or like I've completely lost touch with reality. We made the decision that we would remain together and work on building trust. He told me that like it was my fault that we weren't going to get married and it was just because I didn't trust him enough. So anyway, fast forward, it's September 30th, our wedding day, and I unlocked the door to the house that I had bought for us. So he had none of his own money in the house. I did the entire down payment, put it in both of our names. So I unlock the door to this house and walk inside and he is butt naked. So I unlock the door to this house and walk inside and he is butt naked. He's like, "Why are you here?" And I look down and I see some like girls' boots or women's boots. So I hear the master bedroom door close and I go in there and I find her and she's like put his clothes on that were in the closet. I called the police and reported an intruder. Anyway, she told me like, "We're in love. I'm leaving my husband. We're going to be together." It later came out that they'd been having an affair for quite some time. She told me several months before I ever even became suspicious of her. During the time that he had been cheating on me, he's like telling me that I don't trust him enough. He took out a $500,000 life insurance policy on me. I had been heavily manipulated and told that I was losing my mind. The Monday after this happened on a Saturday, I sold my ring and used it to retain my attorney. I had bought us a house in June, like I said. He, up until the bitter end, tried to steal it out from under me. The husband of the girl that he was cheating on me with took her back, and bless his heart, they're still together to this day. My ex-fiance, he moved a different female co-worker into the house a few weeks later. She had moved herself, her dog, and her mom in, and then they were trying to demand that I pay the bills. 333 days later, I was free.